The power of solitude, discovering yourself through singleness. There is a truth that most people overlook in the rush to find love, settle down, or avoid the silence of an empty room. Many of us step into relationships not because of love, but because of fear. We fear loneliness. We fear insignificance. We fear that if no one is there to validate us, we will somehow vanish into irrelevance. But that fear blinds us to one of the most essential journeys of human life, the journey inward towards self-discovery and self-mastery. And that journey, more than anything else, flourishes in the soil of singleness. Being single is not the same as being lonely. To be single is not to be incomplete, waiting for someone to finish you. Singleness is not a deficiency, but a choice, sometimes conscious, sometimes forced upon us by circumstance, that opens a doorway into freedom. When you are single, you have the chance to ask yourself the questions most people avoid until life forces them into crisis. Who am I, really? What do I want? What is the meaning of my existence, apart from the approval of others? In a culture obsessed with coupling, these questions often sound radical. We're taught from childhood that happiness is found in partnership, that fulfillment is discovered in romance, that to be alone is to fail. Movies, books, and even casual conversations reinforce this idea endlessly. You're not truly successful unless someone loves you. But this conditioning hides the profound truth that learning to stand alone is the foundation for any kind of authentic love. Only by being at peace with yourself can you be at peace with someone else. When you are single, you have the gift of freedom, freedom to experiment, to fail, to grow without the heavy weight of someone else's expectations. You can choose the work you want, shift directions when life calls you elsewhere, move to a new city just to see who you become there, or spend an evening lost in a book, a journal, or quiet reflection. There is no compromise required, no endless negotiation between your desires and another person's comfort. Singleness offers space, and in that space, the seed of self-mastery begins to grow. Think about it. If you've never had the courage to be alone, how do you truly know yourself? If every decision you make is colored by what will my partner think, or will this upset them? When do you hear your own inner voice? Being single is like a mirror. It forces you to confront yourself, your habits, your fears, your strengths, your blind spots. It is in solitude that the hidden layers of your personality rise to the surface. Maybe you discover that you have patterns of insecurity that drive you to please others. Maybe you see for the first time the way fear of rejection controls your choices. Maybe you uncover talents you buried long ago under the demands of a relationship. Whatever surfaces, the mirror of singleness reflects it honestly, and with that honesty comes the opportunity to grow. Someone who has embraced singleness with courage enters future relationships, if they choose to, with a strength and calmness that is rare. They do not seek a partner to complete them because they already feel whole. They do not cling out of fear of abandonment because they've proven to themselves that they can thrive alone. Instead, they love freely, without desperation. They share themselves without losing themselves. That is a love rooted in strength rather than need, and it is far more sustainable. But even if you never choose to enter a relationship again, the benefits of self-discovery and singleness are priceless. Being single gives you the chance to cultivate a healthier relationship with your own body and mind. Without the constant push and pull of another person's needs, you can focus on habits that build strength and clarity. You can develop a fitness routine, take up meditation or yoga, eat in a way that nourishes you, or create rituals that ground your day in peace. These practices seem small, but over time, they build a fortress of resilience inside you. When storms come, and they always do, you have already built shelter within yourself. There's also a broader vision that opens up when you're single. You see the world not just through the narrow lens of romance, but through a wide-angle lens of life. You realize joy can be found in friendships, in creative pursuits, in service to others, in the beauty of nature, and in the pursuit of meaningful work. The myth that love is the only source of happiness begins to dissolve, replaced by the deeper truth that love is everywhere if you learn to see it. Most of all, singleness teaches you that loneliness is not an enemy, it's a teacher. In the silence of your own company, you begin to realize that you are not as fragile as you thought. You hear your own breath, your own heartbeat, and you discover that those simple rhythms are enough. The emptiness you once feared transforms into a fertile space for creativity, reflection, and vision. History is filled with examples of people who use solitude to fuel greatness. Philosophers, artists, inventors, spiritual leaders. They embrace time alone, not as punishment, but as the crucible for ideas and transformation. When you learn to love yourself during singleness, you stop bargaining away your dignity just to hold on to someone. You stop fearing rejection because your worth is no longer tied to external approval. You stop clinging to love as a life raft because you have learned to swim on your own. That independence doesn't make you cold, it makes you strong. It allows you to choose love freely rather than out of desperation. And perhaps the greatest gift of singleness is clarity. Without the noise of constant relational drama, you can see life more clearly. You begin to ask deeper questions about happiness, freedom, and love itself. You realize that nothing outside you, no person, no relationship, no title, defines your value. The essence of your worth has been within you all along, waiting to be recognized. In the end, being single is not about avoiding love. It's about preparing for it, should you choose it. It is about learning to carry yourself with strength and wholeness, so that if love comes, it is an addition to your life, not a necessity. And if love never comes in the form society prescribes, you are still full, still radiant, still at peace. Singleness, at its best, is not a holding pattern, not a waiting room, not a punishment. It is the arena where you discover who you are, where you build the muscles of resilience, where you taste freedom in its purest form. To embrace singleness is to embrace yourself. And once you've done that, you will never again fear standing alone, because you'll know that in your own company, you are already complete. Freedom to grow, the unshackled life of singleness. One of the most liberating truths about being single is that it hands you the keys to your own life. No compromises, no negotiations, no detours shaped by someone else's preferences. The road ahead is yours to walk, and every step you take is guided by your own desires, ambitions, and passions. This freedom is not a small perk. It is one of the greatest gifts life can offer. And it is something most people don't realize until they look back on their years of independence with a kind of wistful nostalgia, realizing they had more freedom than they ever knew. When you are single, you are the sole author of your story. You don't have to edit your dreams down to fit into someone else's narrative. If you want to change careers, you can do so without endless discussions about financial security or family stability. If you want to pack a suitcase and move across the country or across the world, you don't need to convince anyone else to follow. That kind of autonomy is rare in adulthood, and if you embrace it fully, it becomes the rocket fuel for extraordinary growth. Freedom is not just about movement, it is also about focus. When you're single, your energy is not divided between maintaining a relationship and maintaining yourself. All of that focus can be channeled into your own development. You can return to school, learn a new language, build a business, or throw yourself into a creative pursuit that has always tugged at the edges of your imagination. You can dedicate evenings and weekends to personal projects rather than the maintenance of a partnership. That intensity of focus often leads to breakthroughs that simply aren't possible when your time and energy are consistently split. But growth is not only professional or academic, it is deeply personal. Singleness creates room for you to explore yourself without interruption. You can take the time to figure out what values truly guide your life, rather than inheriting or absorbing them from a partner. You can test your boundaries, push your comfort zones, and experiment with ways of living that might have seemed impossible if you were tethered to someone else's expectations. In that sense, being single is like a laboratory, a place where you test, refine, and ultimately define who you are becoming. This freedom also opens the door to passion. Too often in relationships, people sacrifice their passions, whether it's music, art, writing, travel, or athletics, because those pursuits conflict with the demands of a partnership. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, they begin to narrow their lives to fit within the contours of the relationship. But when you are single, you can pour yourself into what makes you come alive without apology. You can write late into the night, train for a marathon, Spend weekends hiking mountains, or immerse yourself in painting or photography without worrying about neglecting someone else. And in doing so, you not only nourish your soul, but also create a life filled with meaning and energy. There is a misconception that freedom in singleness is selfish, that pursuing your passions means turning your back on others. But in truth, it is the opposite. When you cultivate your own growth and joy, you become a fuller, more vibrant human being. That energy radiates outward, impacting friends, family, and community. A person who has invested deeply in their own development has more to give, not less. They are more creative in their work, more generous in their friendships, more present in their community. Far from being selfish, pursuing freedom in singleness is one of the most life-giving choices you can make. And then there is adventure. Singleness allows you to live with a spirit of adventure that is harder to sustain in a relationship bound by routine. You can travel without compromise, chasing experiences that reshape your perspective on life. You can say yes to opportunities spontaneously, without needing to negotiate logistics. That sense of adventure keeps life from becoming stagnant. It keeps you curious, open, alive, and it ensures that the story of your life is one you'll look back on with satisfaction, not regret. Of course, freedom is not without its challenges. With no one else to share the load, the responsibility of your choices rests squarely on your shoulders. That can feel overwhelming, but it is precisely in carrying that responsibility that you grow stronger. You learn accountability. You discover resilience. You prove to yourself that you are capable of building a life worth living without leaning on someone else to do the hard work for you. And that self-reliance, once earned, is a foundation that no one can take away. Being single also gives you freedom in the smallest of ways, and these small freedoms add up to a profound sense of autonomy. You decide what to eat, how to spend your evenings, what music fills your space, how you decorate your home. You control the rhythm of your days and nights. While these decisions may seem trivial, together they create an environment entirely of your making. That environment becomes a canvas for your identity, reflecting your tastes, your values, and your growth. Living in a space that is fully yours reinforces the truth that you are capable of creating a life that is deeply aligned with who you are. The freedom of singleness also extends to finances. While relationships often bring financial stability, they also bring financial compromise. When you're single, your financial decisions are yours alone. You can invest in yourself, save for experiences you value, or take risks that align with your vision for the future. Money becomes a tool for building the life you want, not a subject of negotiation or conflict. That financial independence reinforces the broader sense of autonomy that defines singleness. Perhaps the most profound expression of freedom in singleness is the freedom to design your future without constraint. You are not limited by someone else's dreams or fears. You can imagine the life you want in bold colors without needing to erase sections to fit someone else's outline. Whether that future involves travel, entrepreneurship, a creative career, or a life of service, you have the freedom to pursue it with your whole heart. And even if your vision changes, as visions often do, you can pivot without disruption. That ability to adapt, to change course, to follow your evolving sense of purpose is one of the greatest advantages of being single. In the end, the freedom of singleness is not about selfish indulgence. It is about possibility. It is about creating the space to become who you were meant to be, to pursue passions without apology, to grow without restraint, to design a life that is uniquely yours. And when you embrace that freedom fully, you discover that singleness is not a waiting room for love, but a wide open field for living. To be single is to be unshackled, unbound, unafraid. It is to step into the world with the full force of your own will and creativity. It is to live without compromise, to grow without limit, to dream without hesitation. And when you live that way, you realize that the best thing you can do is not to search for someone else to complete you, but to use your freedom to complete yourself. Strength in solitude, building confidence and emotional independence. One of the greatest misunderstandings about being single is the idea that it represents weakness. Society often frames singleness as a gap, a deficiency, or a problem that must be fixed. Why are you still single? Is asked with pity or suspicion, as if independence were some kind of disease. But those who have walked through seasons of singleness with awareness and courage know the opposite is true. Far from being a weakness, singleness can be the forge where strength, confidence, and emotional independence are hammered into existence. Relationships, for all their beauty, can also become hiding places. When you are partnered, it's easy to avoid dealing with your insecurities by leaning on someone else. You can outsource your happiness, expect reassurance at every turn, and use the presence of another person to mask your own lack of self-belief. Singleness removes that crutch. It leaves you face to face with yourself, with no one to fill the silence but your own thoughts. For some, that silence feels terrifying, but for those willing to stay in it, that silence becomes the crucible of transformation. When you are single, you are forced to answer difficult questions. Can I enjoy my own company? Can I stand on my own 2 feet emotionally? Can I validate myself without constant external approval? These are not easy questions. At first, they may expose insecurity, fear, even shame. But by grappling with them, you begin to develop a sturdier foundation. Little by little, you prove to yourself that you are capable of carrying your own weight. And each time you do, your confidence grows. Confidence built in singleness is different from confidence built in partnership. In partnership, confidence often relies on affirmation. They love me, therefore I must be lovable. In singleness, confidence emerges from self-affirmation. I love myself, therefore I am lovable. The latter is infinitely stronger because it does not vanish when a relationship ends. It cannot be taken away by someone else's change of heart. It is rooted in your own recognition of worth. That recognition is what transforms a person from fragile to resilient, from dependent to free. Emotional independence is the natural outgrowth of this process. To be emotionally independent is not to be cold, detached, or incapable of love. It is to know that your well-being does not rise and fall with someone else's moods or actions. It is to maintain stability in yourself even when circumstances shift. Singleness teaches this lesson better than anything else, because in singleness, you must learn to regulate your own emotions without leaning on a partner. You must learn to calm yourself when anxiety strikes, to encourage yourself when doubt creeps in, to celebrate yourself when achievements come. This does not mean isolation. Emotional independence does not exclude community, friendship, or support. It simply means that you are not enslaved to anyone else's validation. You can lean on others out of choice, not desperation. You can give and receive love freely, without the hidden agenda of needing someone else to prop up your sense of worth. And when you do step into relationships of any kind, romantic, platonic, professional, you do so as a whole person, not as a half-seeking completion. Think about how much stronger a relationship becomes when 2 emotionally independent people meet. Instead of clinging to each other out of fear, they choose each other out of freedom. Instead of controlling each other to avoid abandonment, they trust each other because they have already built trust within themselves. That kind of love is not suffocating, it is liberating. But it begins with the hard work of building independence during singleness. Another way singleness builds confidence is through decision-making. When you are alone, every choice is yours to make. From the small, what to eat, how to spend your weekend, to the large, where to live, what career path to pursue, you are responsible. There is no one to hide behind if things go wrong, no one else to carry the consequences. This can feel daunting, but over time, it becomes empowering. You learn that you are capable of steering your own life. You develop the ability to trust your instincts, to weigh risks, to make mistakes and recover. Every decision you own builds another layer of confidence. Singleness also gives you the chance to face failure without the cushion of a partner. Failure hurts, but it is also one of the greatest teachers. When you fall flat on your face in the realm of career, creativity, or personal growth, you are forced to rely on yourself to get back up. Each time you do, you prove your resilience. You discover that your worth is not diminished by setbacks and that you have the strength to rebuild. That kind of self-reliance is a cornerstone of confidence. There is also something profound about learning to enjoy your own company. Many people fear being alone because they equate solitude with emptiness. But those who lean into solitude often discover richness instead. When you can sit in a quiet room and feel peace rather than panic, when you can take yourself out to dinner or to a movie and genuinely enjoy it, when you can spend a weekend alone and feel nourished instead of neglected, you have unlocked a rare strength. You are no longer at the mercy of constant external stimulation. You carry your own contentment with you. That contentment radiates as confidence because it shows the world you are comfortable in your own skin. The irony is that the more emotionally independent you become in singleness, the more magnetic you are to others. People are drawn to those who exude self-assurance, who do not need validation, but welcome connection. Confidence is attractive because it signals strength and stability. Emotional independence is attractive because it signals maturity. By learning these qualities in singleness, you not only improve your relationship with yourself, but also enhance the quality of every future relationship you might enter. But perhaps the greatest gift of confidence and emotional independence is not what it does for your relationships, but what it does for your life as a whole. A confident, independent person is free to take risks, to pursue dreams, to speak their truth. They are less afraid of rejection because rejection no longer defines them. They are less afraid of failure because they know failure is survivable. They are less afraid of being alone because they have learned that aloneness can be a place of power. To be single is to be given the chance to build this kind of inner fortress. It is a chance too many waste by rushing to escape the discomfort of solitude. But if you embrace it, if you lean into the silence and face the insecurities that surface, you emerge transformed. You emerge with a confidence that cannot be shaken, an independence that cannot be stolen, a strength that cannot be faked. In the end, singleness is not a weakness to be corrected, but a training ground for strength. It is where you learn to love yourself, to trust yourself, to carry yourself. It is where you learn that you are enough, not because someone else says so, but because you have discovered it within. And once you know that, you walk through the world differently. You walk taller, freer, more at peace. Singleness is not a pause in the story of your life. It is one of the most important chapters. It is the chapter where you build the strength to write the rest of the book with courage and clarity. And that strength, once forged, stays with you forever. The healing space of singleness, resetting and finding clarity. There is something profoundly restorative about being single. In a world that constantly tells you to hurry into love, hurry into commitment, hurry into the next milestone, singleness dares you to pause. It gives you breathing room. It gives you silence. And in that silence lies one of its greatest gifts, the chance to heal, to reset, and to find emotional clarity. Too often, people jump from relationship to relationship without giving themselves time to recover. They treat love like a revolving door, believing that the best way to mend a broken heart is to hand it over to someone new. But all this really does is layer unhealed wounds with new expectations. The pain doesn't vanish, it simply hides beneath the surface, ready to resurface when the next conflict arises. Singleness interrupts this cycle. It invites you to sit with your wounds, to look at them honestly, and to allow them to close properly before moving forward. Healing requires time and space, two things that singleness offers in abundance. When you are alone, you have the freedom to slow down, to listen to your inner voice, to acknowledge the hurts you've carried for years. You can finally stop distracting yourself with constant companionship and begin the real work of repair. This is not easy work. It involves facing heartbreak, disappointment, betrayal, and sometimes even your own mistakes. But it is necessary work. Without it, you carry your baggage into every future relationship, weighing it down before it even has a chance to grow. Singleness also provides the clarity to examine patterns. Why did past relationships fail? What role did you play in their unraveling? What wounds from childhood or earlier experiences shape the way you approach love? These are difficult questions, but they are the questions that lead to growth. In the busyness of a new romance, it is almost impossible to reflect this deeply. But in the spaciousness of singleness, you have the opportunity to connect the dots, to recognize unhealthy cycles, and to break them before they repeat. Consider how many people enter relationships seeking healing from pain they never addressed on their own. They hope a partner's love will erase the sting of rejection, the trauma of neglect, or the insecurity that whispers they are not enough. But no one else can do that work for you. Only you can confront those wounds. Only you can untangle the knots of your past. And singleness is the season where that work becomes not only possible, but essential. The healing power of singleness is not just about mending old wounds. It is also about restoring your relationship with yourself. Often in the context of love, people lose sight of who they are. They mold themselves into versions that please their partner, sometimes without even realizing it. They sacrifice passions, ignore friendships, and neglect their own needs for the sake of harmony. Over time, they become strangers to themselves. Singleness offers a reset. It gives you the chance to reconnect with your own desires, to rediscover forgotten parts of yourself, to remember what brings you joy apart from anyone else's influence. This process is like coming home after a long absence. At first, the house feels empty, even foreign. But as you begin to settle back in, you realize it is yours. It has always been yours. You rearrange the furniture, repaint the walls, and slowly the space becomes alive again. That is what singleness does for the soul. It allows you to reclaim your inner home, to decorate it with authenticity, to live within it with peace. Healing also requires forgiveness, not just of others, but of yourself. Singleness gives you the time to release grudges, to let go of resentment, to soften the hard edges that heartbreak can leave behind. More importantly, it gives you the space to forgive yourself for mistakes you've made, for times you ignored red flags, for moments you stayed too long or left too soon. Carrying guilt or shame into the future only ensures that those emotions will repeat. Releasing them through reflection and forgiveness clears the path for healthier choices ahead. Another dimension of healing in singleness is learning emotional clarity. Without the constant emotional noise of a relationship, you begin to understand your feelings more clearly. You can distinguish between loneliness and longing, between desire and dependency, between love and attachment. This clarity is invaluable. It prevents you from mistaking infatuation for compatibility or dependency for intimacy. It helps you recognize what you truly need in a partner, not just what temporarily soothes your insecurities. Clarity also allows you to redefine what love means to you. Many people adopt definitions handed down by family, media, or cultural expectations. Love becomes a checklist: marriage, children, stability, status. But in singleness, you have the freedom to question these scripts. What does love really mean to me? What do I value most in a connection? What kind of partnership, if any, aligns with my vision for life? These questions cannot be answered when you are lost in the whirlwind of someone else's expectations. They require solitude. They require time. They require the stillness that singleness provides. Perhaps the most underrated aspect of healing in singleness is joy. Healing is not all shadow work and tears. It is also rediscovering lightness. It is laughing with friends, traveling alone, picking up new hobbies, and realizing that happiness does not depend on romance. Each joyful experience becomes a stitch in the fabric of your healing, reminding you that life is full even when your bed is empty. This joy strengthens you, teaching you that love is not the only path to fulfillment. And here's the paradox. The more fully you heal and find clarity in singleness, the less desperate you become for partnership. You stop viewing love as a rescue mission. You stop chasing people who cannot meet you halfway. You stop tolerating dynamics that drain you. Instead, you begin to see love as a choice, not a necessity. And when you do choose it, you choose from a place of wholeness rather than brokenness. That kind of choice leads to healthier, deeper, more lasting connections. Healing, resetting, and finding clarity in singleness is not glamorous. It does not always look like freedom on a beach or adventures in faraway cities. Sometimes it looks like crying on the floor, journaling late at night, or sitting quietly in meditation. Sometimes it looks like saying no to people who don't align, even when you're lonely. Sometimes it looks like spending a Friday night with a book instead of a date. But these small, quiet acts accumulate. Over time, they build strength. They build wisdom. They build a self that is ready for whatever comes next. In the end, singleness is not a wound. It is the medicine. It is the pause that allows you to heal. It is the reset that clears the clutter. It is the space where emotional clarity blooms. To embrace singleness is to embrace the process of becoming whole, and wholeness, once discovered, becomes the foundation for every other part of life. Singleness, then, is not the absence of love. It is the presence of healing. It is not an empty chapter. It is the chapter where you mend, rebuild, and prepare for the chapters yet to come. To step into that space is not to step into loneliness. It is to step into freedom, clarity, and peace. Wide horizons, the boundless exploration of singleness. There is something uniquely expansive about being single. When you are free from the compromises and negotiations that relationships often require, the world feels wider. Doors that once seemed closed suddenly swing open. Time that was once divided is now fully yours. And with that time comes possibility. Possibility to travel, to learn, to explore, to reinvent yourself, and to live a life that stretches far beyond the boundaries you once imagined. Singleness, when embraced, is not confinement. It is expansion. One of the most immediate ways singleness broadens your horizons is through travel. When you are single, your travel choices are not bound by another person's schedule, preferences, or fears. You can book a spontaneous flight, spend weeks wandering a city that fascinates you, or trek through mountains without worrying if your partner would rather be lying on a beach. Travel, at its core, is a deeply personal experience. It challenges you, stretches you, and changes you. To travel alone is to encounter the world without filter, to meet people and cultures without the buffer of companionship. It teaches resilience, adaptability, and openness in a way nothing else can. But exploration does not require a passport. Singleness gives you the freedom to explore your own city, your own interests, your own inner world. You can sign up for a pottery class, join a hiking group, learn to dance, or dive into local volunteer work. Each new experience expands not only your skills, but also your sense of identity. You are no longer confined by the label of someone's partner. You are free to collect labels of your own choosing: artist, traveler, athlete, student, mentor. Singleness gives you room to become multidimensional. Learning is another horizon that widens in singleness. With your time and focus under your control, you can pursue knowledge in a way that may be harder when balancing the demands of a relationship. You can go back to school, take online courses, read widely, or simply dedicate yourself to self-education. Knowledge is freedom. It opens doors, creates opportunities, and shapes perspective. The more you learn, the bigger your world becomes. Singleness offers the bandwidth to invest in that expansion without guilt. Perhaps the greatest horizon singleness opens is the horizon of self-reinvention. Relationships, especially long-term ones, tend to cement your identity. You become the responsible one, the creative one, the funny one, often defined in contrast to your partner. Singleness erases those definitions and hands you a blank canvas. Who do you want to be now? What roles do you want to try on? You can experiment with new lifestyles, explore different communities, or change directions entirely without disrupting someone else's expectations. Reinvention is freedom, and singleness is the perfect season to practice it. Exploration also takes place on an emotional level. When you are single, you have the space to dig deeper into your inner world. You can explore your values, your triggers, your dreams, your fears. You can ask yourself difficult questions. What truly matters to me? What kind of life feels meaningful? What am I willing to sacrifice for my goals? These questions do not always have easy answers, but wrestling with them shapes your character. The person who emerges from that inner exploration is wiser, steadier, and more intentional. Of course, expansion is not only about personal growth, it is also about connection. Singleness gives you the chance to meet people from all walks of life without the filter of being seen as taken or bound. Friendships often flourish more deeply during seasons of singleness because you have the time and energy to invest in them. You can nurture bonds with colleagues, neighbors, mentors, and communities. These connections broaden your worldview, expose you to different perspectives, and remind you that love is not limited to romance. Love shows up in friendship, mentorship, community, and even fleeting encounters with strangers. Singleness also expands your relationship with the world itself. You begin to notice details that might otherwise be overlooked. The beauty of a sunset, the rhythm of a busy street, the quiet of a park. Without the constant distraction of managing a relationship, You have more attention to give to the present moment. You become more observant, more curious, more alive to the subtleties of existence. This awareness deepens your appreciation for life, making even ordinary experiences feel extraordinary. There is also adventure in risk-taking. Singleness often creates a safety net of sorts, not because you cannot fail, but because your failures affect only you. You can take career risks, artistic risks, entrepreneurial risks, without worrying about how they will ripple into a partnership. This freedom to fail is one of the most powerful accelerators of growth. It allows you to experiment, innovate, and dream big. Even when risks don't pan out, you gain wisdom and resilience. And when they do succeed, you gain momentum that propels your life forward. Yet perhaps the most profound expansion singleness offers is the expansion of identity beyond societal scripts. You begin to realize that life does not have to follow the template of dating, marriage, children, retirement. You can design your own template. Maybe you choose to prioritize travel. Maybe you build a career that allows you to impact thousands of lives. Maybe you pour yourself into art, activism, or spirituality. The point is that you are not limited. The horizon is open, and you are free to chase it. Some may argue that this kind of freedom is temporary, that eventually everyone must settle down. But singleness teaches a deeper truth. Settling down is a choice, not a requirement. And even if you one day choose partnership, the expansiveness you cultivated in singleness never leaves you. You bring it with you, enriching the relationship rather than losing yourself in it. The horizons you explored alone become the foundation of the life you share. It's important to recognize that expansion can feel uncomfortable. Stepping into new environments, trying new things, facing unfamiliar situations, all of it can stir anxiety. But growth always lives at the edge of comfort. Singleness provides the perfect environment for embracing this discomfort because the stakes are yours alone. You are free to stretch, stumble, and recover without fear of judgment from a partner. Over time, this builds courage, and courage once built makes every horizon accessible. To live single is to live wide. It is to take up space in your own life, to push against the boundaries that once held you back, to say yes to opportunities without hesitation. It is to realize that the world is not a narrow hallway leading to a wedding aisle, but an open landscape of mountains, oceans, and skies waiting to be explored. In the end, the expansion of singleness is not about rejecting love. It is about refusing to shrink your life while waiting for it. It is about embracing the truth that your life is happening now, and it is full of possibilities. To be single is to stand at the edge of a wide horizon and know that every direction is open, every path is yours to choose, every adventure is waiting, and when you step forward, you step not in fear, but in freedom. #Beyond Romance, the deep connection singleness makes possible. One of the greatest misconceptions about singleness is that it means living without love. People often reduce love to romance, imagining that without a partner, life must be empty, cold, or incomplete. But those who embrace singleness know the truth. Love exists in many forms, and often the richest, deepest connections we make in life are outside of romance. Singleness, far from isolating you, creates space to invest in friendships, family bonds, and community ties that sustain you in ways even the most passionate romance cannot. When you are in a relationship, much of your energy naturally flows toward your partner. Your time, attention, and emotional bandwidth are often oriented around that single connection. This is not inherently bad. It is the nature of intimacy. But it does mean that friendships, family relationships, and even community involvement can slide into the background. Many people, without realizing it, let their worlds shrink down to the size of their relationship. Singleness breaks that pattern. It reopens the door to a wider network of connection. It gives you the freedom to pour energy into multiple relationships, creating a more balanced and resilient support system. Instead of relying on one person for companionship, understanding, and care, you diversify your sources of love. This not only makes your life richer, but also protects you from the fragility of putting all your emotional eggs in one basket. Friendship often flourishes most during times of singleness. With more time and focus available, you can nurture your friendships with intentionality. You can spend long evenings talking with friends, plan trips together, or simply show up more consistently in their lives. Friendships built in these seasons often last a lifetime, precisely because they are not overshadowed by the gravitational pull of romance. They are chosen, nurtured, and sustained by mutual effort. Family bonds, too, can deepen in singleness. Many people discover that when they are not consumed by the demands of a romantic relationship, they have more patience and energy for parents, siblings, or extended family. They can show up more fully at gatherings, offer support during challenges, and create new traditions that strengthen family ties. In cultures where family often takes a back seat once people couple up, singleness is an opportunity to rebalance priorities to honor the people who were with you long before romance entered the picture. Community connection is another gift of singleness. Free from the tunnel vision of romance, you have more bandwidth to engage with causes, groups, and communities that matter to you. You can volunteer, join organizations, or build networks of shared interest. These connections root you in something larger than yourself, reminding you that life's meaning is not confined to private intimacy, but also thrives in collective belonging. Communities can become extended families, providing encouragement, accountability, and joy that no single partner could offer on their own. There is also a deeper psychological benefit to building varied connections during singleness: resilience. When your emotional world is balanced across multiple relationships, you are less vulnerable to devastation if one bond shifts or ends. A breakup, while still painful, does not leave you isolated because you have friends, family, and community to support you. This web of connection is far stronger than the fragile rope of depending on one person for everything. In this way, singleness trains you to build relationships that are sustainable, diverse, and emotionally intelligent. Another overlooked dimension of singleness is how it reshapes your definition of love. Without the narrow focus on romance, you begin to notice love in places you once overlooked: the way a friend remembers your favorite song, the way your grandmother tells the same story every holiday with a sparkle in her eye, the way a community rallies around someone in need. These are all expressions of love, no less real, no less important than romantic love. Singleness sharpens your ability to see them and to cherish them. It also transforms the way you give love. When you are not consumed by the demands of one relationship, you have more generosity to spread. You can be the friend who shows up when it matters, the sibling who makes the extra call, the neighbor who lends a hand. Love, in this wider sense, becomes less about possession and more about contribution. You realize that love is not limited to romance. It is a posture, a way of moving through the world with care and generosity. Of course, none of this means that romance is unimportant. Romantic love can be beautiful, powerful, transformative, but it is not the only form of connection that matters. Singleness teaches you to balance the scales, to invest in all the types of relationships that make life meaningful. When and if romance enters your life, it does so as an addition to an already rich network of love, not as the sole pillar holding up your world. There is also freedom in how singleness allows you to redefine intimacy. Intimacy does not only mean physical closeness or romantic vulnerability. It can mean late-night conversations with a friend, shared laughter with a sibling, or moments of solidarity with a fellow traveler. When you are single, you often discover forms of intimacy that are subtler but no less profound. This redefinition makes you a more whole human being, able to give and receive closeness in many ways, not just the romantic script handed down by culture. The paradox of singleness is that the very thing people fear, being alone, often leads to deeper connection than many relationships ever provide. Why? Because when you are single, you learn to approach others not from a place of need, but from a place of fullness. You are not grasping for someone to fill a void. You are extending yourself freely, generously, authentically. People feel that difference. They respond to it, and the connections you build are stronger for it. In practical terms, this means your life as a single person can be full of love, sometimes more love than when you are in a relationship. Your calendar may be dotted with dinners with friends, game nights, family events, community gatherings. Your phone may buzz with texts not from one partner, but from many people who care about you. Your days may be filled with small acts of kindness, both given and received. Love multiplies when you stop confining it to one channel. Singleness, then, is not lovelessness. It is love unshackled from the narrow confines of romance. It is love spread wide, love diversified, love enriched by variety and depth. It is the chance to build connections that are lasting, resilient, and nourishing. And in the process, it teaches you one of life's most important lessons, that you are never truly alone when you open yourself to the many forms of love available to you. So the next time someone asks, "Why are you still single?" you can smile and know the answer. Because singleness is not an absence of connection. It is a reorientation of it. It is the choice to weave a web of love that is strong, diverse, and unbreakable. It is the realization that life is not about clinging to one relationship for dear life, but about embracing the richness of many. And that richness, once discovered, makes singleness not a deficit, but a gift. Wholeness within, the joy of creating your own happiness. At the heart of all human longing is the search for happiness. Every choice we make, from career decisions to personal relationships, is guided by the desire to feel fulfilled, to feel alive, to feel whole. For many, the promise of happiness is projected outward, onto a dream job, onto material success, and most persistently, onto a romantic partner. The cultural script is clear. Once you find the one, you will finally be happy. But this script is a dangerous illusion because it places your joy in someone else's hands. Singleness shatters that illusion. It strips away the fantasy and invites you to discover the deepest truth of all, that happiness is not something you receive from another person, but something you create within yourself. Being single is the classroom where this truth becomes undeniable. Without a partner to serve as constant validation, you are left with the question, can I be happy on my own? At first, the question feels daunting. Many people panic when confronted with their own solitude, fearing it will expose emptiness. But those who lean into singleness discover that solitude is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. And within that space, happiness begins to grow, not as a gift from outside, but as a practice from within. One of the first lessons of singleness is that joy can be simple. Without the constant drama or negotiation of a relationship, small things begin to stand out more clearly. A walk in the park, a cup of coffee enjoyed slowly, a hobby pursued without distraction. All of these moments can become sources of contentment. Happiness reveals itself not as a grand event, but as a string of small, intentional choices. You learn that fulfillment is less about circumstances and more about attention, what you choose to notice, what you choose to savor, what you choose to value. Singleness also teaches resilience. When challenges arise, loneliness, setbacks, uncertainty, you cannot outsource your well-being to someone else. You must learn to soothe yourself, to encourage yourself, to motivate yourself. At first, this can feel like a burden, but over time, it becomes empowerment. You discover that you are capable of carrying your own happiness, that you can generate joy even in difficulty. This resilience becomes a kind of inner wealth, making you less vulnerable to the ups and downs of external life. Fulfillment in singleness also comes from purpose. With fewer distractions, you have the space to ask, what matters most to me? What kind of life do I want to build? These questions lead to pursuits that stretch beyond personal pleasure, creative expression, meaningful work, acts of service, contributions to community. Happiness built on purpose is deeper than happiness built on pleasure alone. It endures, even when life is hard, because it is rooted in something larger than yourself. Singleness, by clearing the clutter, makes it easier to find and pursue this kind of purpose. Another gift of singleness is self-knowledge. Happiness requires alignment between who you are and how you live. But you cannot align your life if you don't know yourself. Relationships, while rich in many ways, can blur this process because you are constantly adapting to another person. Singleness removes that distraction. It allows you to listen inward, to explore your passions, to confront your fears, to clarify your values. The more you know yourself, the easier it becomes to create a life that feels authentic. And authenticity is one of the deepest sources of happiness. This self-knowledge also prevents one of the greatest pitfalls of love, expecting someone else to do the work of making you whole. Too many people enter relationships hoping to be saved from themselves. to be validated, healed, completed. But no partner, no matter how loving, can carry that weight. Only you can. Singleness teaches you to do that work yourself. It shows you that happiness is not about being completed, but about realizing you were never incomplete to begin with. Importantly, happiness in singleness is not about isolation. It is not about shutting out others or living in perpetual independence. It is about learning that your baseline of joy is internal, so that all external relationships become additions, not crutches. When you do connect with friends, family, or future partners, you do so from a place of fullness. You are not grasping for someone to fix you. You are offering yourself freely, already whole. This kind of giving makes relationships healthier and more joyful because they are built on choice rather than desperation. Singleness also offers the chance to redefine success. Society often equates success with marriage, children, and traditional milestones. Those who remain single are sometimes pitied as if they have missed the mark. But happiness in singleness comes from rejecting those narrow definitions and creating your own. Maybe success for you is traveling the world, building a business, writing a book, mentoring others, or simply living with peace of mind. When you stop chasing society's checklist, you realize that fulfillment is not one size fits all. It is personal. It is unique. And singleness gives you the freedom to define it for yourself. Another dimension of happiness in singleness is gratitude. When you are not consumed by the roller coaster of romance, you can more easily notice the blessings already present in your life. Friends who make you laugh, family members who support you, opportunities that stretch your potential, moments of beauty that might otherwise be overlooked. Gratitude transforms singleness from something you endure to something you cherish. It reminds you that life is not waiting to begin when love arrives. It is already happening, and it is already full. There is also peace in recognizing that happiness is not about constant excitement. Relationships often promise drama, passion, conflict, reconciliation. Singleness, by contrast, offers a steadier kind of joy, the peace of self-reliance, the satisfaction of daily rituals, the stability of knowing you can take care of yourself. This peace is not flashy, but it is profound. It grounds you in a way that makes life feel manageable, even beautiful, on ordinary days. And here is the paradox. The more you build happiness from within, the more open you are to love when it does come. Why? Because you are no longer approaching it with desperation. You are not looking for someone to fix your unhappiness. You are simply inviting them to share in the joy you've already created. This makes love freer, healthier, less pressured. And if love never comes, you are not deprived. You are already full. In the end, singleness is not a detour on the path to happiness. It is one of the most direct routes there is. It teaches you that joy is not found in external validation, but in internal cultivation. It shows you that fulfillment is not something given, but something built. It reveals that you were never incomplete. You were always whole, always enough, always capable of creating your own happiness. So when people ask, "Don't you want someone to make you happy?" you can answer with clarity, "I already am." Because singleness has taught you the greatest secret of all, that true happiness is not found in someone else's arms, but in your own heart.